What's up, you cocksuckers? Uncle Joe Diaz here. Being a savage as always, J.R. Marx is gonna react to some of my shit, so let us begin. Oh, by the way, you guys know me. Check out my new book coming out today. Tremendous. The Life of a Comedy Savage. You won't regret it. Stay black.
Feel that the beginning of my downfall with the fear just wasn't the pandemic. I'm not scared to fucking die from a fucking cold. It wasn't the pandemic, but the pandemic was fucking with me. The thing that fucked with me the most was what my neighborhood had become.
Yeah.
And not from you telling me. You know how people tell you shit? No. What I saw.
Yeah.
And once I see something, that's it. I don't give a fuck what anybody tells me. I saw a guy get hit by a 4x4. In a at the bus station in North Hollywood, where we drove by thousands of times. I saw a guy hitting people with a 4x4, not a 2x4. Who leaves the house with a 4x4?
Jesus Christ.
Okay, I saw a fucking CVS, Studio City. I saw a white guy and an African-American hooker fighting at CVS.
Yeah, let me get outside my house and start hitting people with a giant piece of wood. Charming.
At 10 in the morning in Studio City. I've been going to that fucking thing for 5 years, that CVS. That's where I got all my prescriptions and shit. I saw like 3 or 4 things. Then I had the glass door in my house. So I kept feeling that they were going to kick the front door in. So I went right to the Armenian, and I'm like, dog, I need a gun. We ain't got time to stand on line in Burbank. And he brought me like a fucking 45 with a bazooka and shit. And I gave him like $2,000. I go, don't come back around here.
Wow.
This motherfucker came back 3 days later with like a fucking AR-15 in a suitcase with a violin. I'm like, oh my God. So now one thing I don't like, I do not like weapons. I'll shoot you, but I don't want to have a weapon. I can't have a weapon.
You don't want to have a weapon, right? You don't want to feel that you need to have a weapon, though.
No.
You're worried
I
that
don't
just
ever want
the
to feel
energy
like
of
I
it?
have a
Yeah, you
weapon.
don't want to feel like it.
I messed around with weapons for years. You know, I got in trouble with a weapon. And I always said that when I put weapons on, I met more people that had weapons on. Do you follow what I'm saying to you? When I was a civilian hugging people, I never felt a weapon. But when I put a weapon on in '86, for 3 years after I got arrested, most people I dealt with had a weapon. So I considered it a magnet.
Number 15. Whopper, 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 Junior, Double, Triple, Whopper, Flame Grill taste with perfect.
Commercials are old hat. The people want music. If I could change fate, I would, Krabsy. But I'm an entertainer deep down, a people's person. We're on the same page here, aren't we?
It was, for me, in my mind, it felt like a magnet of fucking bad shit. Those 2 guns I had in the house, it didn't feel right with me. You weren't going to bust into my house and, you know, hurt my daughter or my wife. But...
Oh, crazy stuff. Prior to COVID, when that first happened, a lot of people went crazy. So Diaz seeing people doing all this crazy stuff in his neighborhood when it used to be safe. Probably time to get a gun or maybe move.
having those 2 weapons in the house did not feel good.
California has very creepy laws when it comes to that, too.
I didn't give a fuck about the laws. I will get rid of that gun before the cops even get there. Trust me, I had 10 neighbors that were cool as shit. Take it like an OJ. Where'd OJ shit go to? You got neighbors.
Yeah.
You got neighbors. I killed the bitch, hide the fucking shirt, whatever. I just didn't like it. I didn't like having that weapon. I didn't like having a 45 in my car. Yeah. And then on the day I flew back here, I'll never forget that I had that. I gave him back the AR, and I had the 9mm, the 45. And the people called me and they're like, "Are you bringing a weapon with you on the plane?" Because I flew on a private plane. During COVID, I had the cats and shit, you know. So I go, "Yeah, I'm going to bring the gun with me." And that night, I said, no. And I gave it to Brett. I called him next.
Uncle Joey Diaz with his cats. Hilarious stand-up comedy he did with
Good evening, y'all, and welcome to Breaking News. I am your host and cousin to Nancy Grace, Stephen Nonek McTitties. Breaking news, top story. A bitch was seen falling down the stairs. Police and paramedics were called to the scene. Results showed that the lady had drunk decaf coffee and fell unconscious.
His cats about giving up drugs in order for his cats to survive, and you guys know.
Michael, come pick up this fucking 45 from me. He still has it. He's holding it for me. I don't want it. That's how I didn't like that fear.
Yeah.
When I saw Latin Kings spray paint on my daughter's school, Colfax Elementary, same school Bert sent his kids, that wasn't good. I just saw a lot of shit up there that I would never saw in the Valley. You see it in Hollywood, shit like that. So that's good that you brought that up, because I forgot how scary it was. It was scary for a few weeks.
It got very strange because it got different. It felt like everybody was more on edge. I saw a bunch of lootings. It was crazy. Like someone broke into this clothes store. They smashed the windows and ran into it, and we were.
Oh yeah, you've got looters and anti-vaxxers, and flat earthers, vegans and liberals and they, them, ze, zer, zippity doo dah, two-spirited people. Shit's getting crazy.
By this Target, and these people had blocked the door of the Target with a dumpster and lit the dumpster on fire. And they were telling everybody to get out of the building, put down whatever you're purchasing, run out of the exit right now. It got real weird with all that Antifa stuff. It got very strange. And people were emboldened to do things. And after the George Floyd death, when it was the riots and they lit the cop cars on fire, there was this real feeling, this real fuck the police, we're going to do whatever the fuck we want and no one's going to stop it. And the police seemed hesitant to do things too. And that was when I was like, check please. I was like, this is not the place. No one here is, you got to recognize when things are changing and when they're not going to get better, because there's no resources in place. There's no leadership in place. If you're defunding the police, that is a totally wrong approach to deal with an excess of crime. Like what you need is better funding, and you need better training and better people as police officers and better respect for police officers. You need to have an understanding that they're very, very necessary. And one of the things that people found is that as soon as crime starts fucking scaling up, in every city people are calling for the cops. Even politicians in San Francisco that were actively saying we should defund the police. They were tweeting we should defund the police. Then the crime starts kicking up. They're like, we can't even get the cops to come out. Like, why do you think that is? That's crazy. Maybe it's because you defunded them. I mean, you're out of your fucking mind. Like, do you think that somehow or another having less police equals less crime? Like, that's the dumbest scenario. Like, what do you think everybody's going to get kumbaya on you? No, you're just going to embolden criminals and you're going to terrify people. And then things are going to scale worse and worse. And if you keep doing the same thing to try to fix it, it's
kumbaya, my lord, kumbaya. Police! Stupid.
never going to get better. And that's what you're seeing in Portland. And that's what you're seeing in San Francisco. It just keeps getting worse, and it's chaotic.
You ever go to a fucking club, and they're playing like disco music, and all of a sudden some fat fuck like me yells, "Put on Skinner," and nobody listens? Like, people like, that idiot. When I heard the term debunk the police, that's what it felt like.
Defund the police, yeah.
Defund the police, put on Skinner.
Yeah.
Until people started saying, that's a great idea. And you're like, what the fuck? And that's what was going on. Too many people were yelling, put on Skinner, with different ideas at that point.
Yeah.
And you're like, what do you mean? Dog, listen, let's get something straight. You're going to hear this from me one fucking time. I was born a nice kid. Somewhere along the line, I lost my fucking way. Somewhere along the line, when you suffer a traumatic experience when you're a young man, you stay stuck for a few years. Or a young woman, you stay stuck. Yeah. That's why women become, they become, what is that word?
Prostitutes?
No. when you like to fuck, the proximity, whatever that fucking word is.
Nymphomaniacs?
No, that's not the word.
Promiscuous.
Promiscuous.
Oh.
You know, when you suffer a dad or a mom or a grandmother you were tight with, you get stalled for a couple of years. I'm not making excuses. These are all proven things. You got to read this shit. You just don't grow until the reality comes to you of what happened. You're still in shock when your mom dies or your father dies. And somewhere along the line, I went off the rails. And I'm sorry for that. I never disrespected a cop, Joe. In all the stories I tell you, you never hear any disrespect of a police officer. Never.
Well, you knew cops.
Fuck that.
But that's part of it, too.
You know who raised me when I was a young kid? PAL. PAL. Police Athletic League on 88th Street in Amsterdam. I grew up in there.
There you go, guys. That was Joe Diaz, problems in his neighborhood. Never disrespected a police officer, yet was a criminal in his youth. Makes you think, doesn't it? Compared to what people do in crime nowadays. Hope you enjoyed that reaction, guys. Sorry, I was still a bit sick, that's why I wasn't that animated, this reaction, but you know, next one will be better. Good old Joe Diaz. It's glad he's still around, and Joe Rogan and all that ilk of comedians. See you guys tomorrow for a new Hangout stream and some more gameplays.